Hey everybody, this is Adam Smith, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about leadership. And the goal of today is to try to help you understand how priorities will enhance your productivity. Um, the big idea of the day for this episode is that you can become truly excellent at what you do if you'll focus your energy in a single direction. Being able to focus will help you get better results, and we're going to talk about some of the reasons why that is. So, productivity is a measure of leadership effectiveness. It's one of the things, if you are a leader of an organization or a manager, you get assessed by your supervisors about your effectiveness. And one of those measures that they look at is your productivity. As a leader or a manager, ultimately you're there to help get better results than they could without you there. I've been in paid management positions since 2007. I had an internet manager title, but I didn't have any direct reports back in 2004. The first time I got direct reports was 2007. So from 2007 until I resigned at about 2017, I was in paid leadership roles, various size organizations, and one of the most common things you're judged on as a leader is your ability to get results. So, knowing that, one of the hardest parts about being in leadership is that you're always racing the clock. I remember times in my life where I felt like the days went way too long, and then you move into leadership and you're like, man, the day is going way too fast. I have this huge punch list. How are we going to get it all done within the time allotted for that day? So productivity is one of the things that is measured and tracked, and you're either your reputation is that you're productive or your reputation is that you're not productive. So if you are in this role right now, let's say you are a manager, you could even just be a salesperson, or you're a small business owner. How do you become more productive? I would say that productivity is really about choosing the right things. We used to think about productivity in terms of the quantity of things, like how much stuff can I get done within a certain time period? How fast can we go? Um, you know, did I have a productive day or not? How do we measure that? Well, historically, we would measure that in like speed, but the more I started to understand it, it's really about doing fewer things. It's not about how much can I pack into a day. It's really a matter of like, how can I focus on the things that matter the most? See, we all have lists we can make that are extremely long, things that we have to get done. But the most productive people are the people that get the most important things done. Whereas unproductive people, they might work just as hard, but they're not really focused on the things that matter the most. And so they end up having their time robbed by these little things that don't matter at all. Stephen Covey's book is really where some of this information comes out of. He was one of the first authors to put this to paper, but he basically made things into four categories: urgent and important, not urgent but important, urgent but not important, and then not urgent and not important. And he said that, all your fires happen in that urgent, important area. Like, man, we got to get this done. But the most value out of all the activities had to do with that. It's not necessarily urgent, but it is important. And his goal was to try to get you to eliminate the other stuff. Like, if you can focus on doing the highest value activities first, that's where you're going to really see your productivity soar. And when you start to really go deeper, a deeper level of thought on that is, how can I do less things, but more of the most important things? I heard it explained one way that I thought was a really great way to explain this, but if your energy is spread out in a million different directions, or the same amount of energy is focused in one direction, the people that have their energy focused in a single direction end up becoming great. I mean, it's why we love our heroes, people that are exceptional at certain things. It's where Malcolm Gladwell got the idea to say that 10,000 hours put in is what got people to this expert level. everyone is saying the same things, but the way to distill it into like a usable thing is just to realize, like, if you look at all the things you have to do or you think you have to do, inside of that, there's actually only a few things that you really have to do, and some of these other things may not matter at all. And those things could be eliminated from your life in most cases and not have anything change because they're not that important. Being able to take the bulk of your time and put it in a single unified direction, that's how you become really, truly productive. So how do you choose? I'd say the best way to think about that is to think about the idea of a specialist versus a generalist. A generalist is that picture of a person going in a million directions, but not going very far in any of them. Where a specialist is someone that locks into one thing, one core thing, and they just go all in on that one thing. So part of choosing is to understand, like, with what I'm doing, am I a specialist or am I a generalist? See, managers at some level have to be a generalist, but in big organizations, they actually do still distill them down to specialist roles. There might be logistics managers, or there might be HR managers, there might be marketing managers. Everyone still has a specialty. They're not focused on the whole thing, they're focused on these one areas. One area you sort of have to be a generalist at is if you're a small business owner. But even with that said, even if you're a one-person show, you can still specialize in one thing and not have to feel like you have to do all the things. There might be this sweet spot, if you will, that you spend the majority of your time. And so I would really challenge you to look at what your current day looks like, go through all the things that you do in a day or in a week or in a month, and then circle the things that are like, okay, these are the ones that I have to do. Some of these other ones I don't. And if I didn't do these, I could actually do this more and become better at it, or better well known for it. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be to take a look at your goals, and then those should help you set priorities on what those high-level activities need to be. First of all, I hope you have goals, but if you do have goals, or let's say business objectives, whatever term you want to use, those things are going to be the things that will help you make decisions about, like, this is important, this is not. So typically your activities flow from those goals. If you'll look at your goals and think with a specialist point of view, you should be able to become much more productive in whatever it is that you're doing. As a salesperson, one way I heard this discussed was to go and stand on your X. And that was a very simple way of just saying, if you're in sales, there's only a couple things you can do that are productive that lead to sales. One of them is prospecting, one of them is presenting, and the other one is closing. Anything other than that, you're not necessarily producing income. So you're sort of wasting time. There's other things that have to be done, but you need to minimize the time spent on those things and maximize the things in those other areas. So in that way, you're specializing in those areas and you're letting the other things sort of fall away. If you're a manager, one of the things you need to do probably the most is spend time with your team. There's times you need to plan. There's times you need to have meetings. There's times you need to handle some heat from some customers if that was to happen. There's spills, like there's safety things, there's reordering, restocking. There's a million things you could do, but typically managers build these routines that help them accomplish the things that matter most, and they try to delegate everything else out. That's how that works on the specialist part. Like, I'm specializing in management. I'm not doing all their other jobs for them. So that's another way to think about it. I'd say another way you can think about being a specialist versus a generalist has to do with how many services or products you're offering. I've seen businesses where they try to add more revenue streams, and all it does is dilute their core business. Starbucks, over the years, I was a Starbucks employee at one point, and they became an area that I used to study. But Starbucks still has this core business that they focus on, and then they'll introduce little bits of other things as short run or limited production runs as a way to keep things fresh and new. But really, their business is built around a couple key areas. Other businesses, I think about Orange Julius, like that's a very simple business model. Subway has an incredibly simple business model. These large companies, they don't try to be everything. They focus on what they're best at, and they stay in that lane, and they do it the best that they can possibly do it. So ultimately, there's a bunch of examples you can look at to figure out how can I specialize and not be a generalist. And then how can I use my goals to help set business priorities? But ultimately, that's how you choose. If you want to be more productive, you really want to probably do fewer things, but do those most important things a whole lot more. Really simple lesson, but it's such a simple and important mind shift that if you really catch this, you can dramatically change your results. Typically, when we go to work every day, there's a million things that can rob us of our time. And our time is the one thing that we can't manufacture more of. And so if you're a leader or a manager or a salesperson, productivity is super important, and that is the key to being more productive. If you have any questions, give me an email at adamsmithbranding@gmail.com, or you can subscribe to this channel. You can put questions and comments in the feedback below. Visit my website at adamsmithbranding.com. Either way, there's a lot of different ways you can get a hold of me, but I would love to answer your questions. If you have any thoughts around this, comments, want me to explain something in greater detail, happy to do it. Shoot me an email. Until then, I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.